Hello brothers and sisters, and welcome to a Top Table Gaming video. In this video I'm going to be reviewing the new issue of SbG Magazine. I was lucky enough to be given an early copy by my compadre Damien, which you will know from Battle Streams in Middle Earth and GBHL podcast fame back in the day. So without further ado, let's have a look at this magazine. Welcome back everybody, I am Steve, as I mentioned before, and welcome to this episode where we're going to be looking at issue 11, the lockdown issue of SbG Magazine. Now, do not be deterred if you are not an SbG player. This is a magazine for all hobbyists, in my opinion, and has a vast array of articles which we'll have a look quickly and delve into without giving too much away. And I think it really is appealing to most hobbyists and gamers and things like that, because it doesn't just focus on SbG as a game, it focuses on the hobby as a whole. So please don't be put off. Sit by. If you're painting, leave the video on, listen. You never know, you might be intrigued to pick up SbG and have a read and then maybe even get involved in the most awesome gaming community out there. Before we do get stuck in, please do consider, if you haven't already, clicking the subscribe button below. It really does help the channel. We're pushing in on 10,000 subscribers, which is just like mind-blowing. It's crazy. But yeah, if you could subscribe, that would be amazing. And if you click the little bell button next to it, it means you get a notification every time I release a new video. I am back here in Top Table Towers in the studio, and I'm very excited to be back. It's been a long 2 years where I've nipped in and out of the studio, but basically, if you look back at the back catalogue of videos, a lot of the stuff over the last 2 years have been done from my man cave at home, which has been great. You know, being home, it's convenient, but it's not the studio. I really love, as you can see behind me, playing battle reports on the gaming table, getting people into the studio and hanging out, and that's what I'm looking forward to doing in the coming months. So please do keep an eye out for that, and you'll know if you click the subscribe button. Now, without further ado, a little bit of background about SbG Magazine. SbG Magazine is created by Damien O'Byrne and Thomas Harrison, who I met through the Great British Hobbit League and the Great British Hobbit League Facebook group and podcast, etc., of which I was a host alongside them for a period, and still am officially, although the Great British Hobbit League podcast, or the GBHL podcast, should I say, has kind of gone into a hiatus. Whether it will come out the other side, we do not know, but it is a great hub for videos and everything else. There's loads of series on there, there's loads of battle reports. Do check that out. There'll be links below so you can check that out. So SbG Magazine was an idea that Damien and Tom had when kind of the hobby, or the SbG hobby, was if we're totally honest, was in a decline, and White Dwarf was doing less and less coverage of the system that we all know and love, and we could always do a little bit more still White Dwarf. Just saying, guys, just saying, anyone listening, more Middle Earth content in White Dwarf would be amazing. Yeah, a couple of pages every issue would be great. But yeah, they loved the old articles from White Dwarf when it was, you know, there was a substantial amount of SbG in those magazines. And also we had the Battle Games in Middle Earth magazines, which I'll touch on at the end of the video, which were great also, and just sort of involved a lot of the hobby side and the narrative side. And Damien and Tom, like a lot of us, really did miss it. And they kind of decided to set the bull by the horns and create a magazine. There wasn't a magazine out there for us. There wasn't a magazine out there that they wanted to read. And they thought, well, if it's not there, let's do it. Let's make it, which they did. And from the get-go, they've done an amazing job. From issue 1 all the way through to now, you can see the progression. Their skills as magazine creators, every issue kind of they just build and build and build upon it. And every issue kind of just blows me away. From even the very first one, where they were kind of just sort of dipping a toe in, it was done very, very well. But the photography, which I know Tom's father-in-law really does help out with. And then you've got the scenery builds from Mr. Fryer, and painting guides and sculpting tutorials, etc., from Shadow and Flame. And even little old me has been in the odd issue. I'm looking forward to being in more issues in the future. So it's got a community vibe to it, it's got a community feel to it. A lot of people get involved, even people that are not as, how can I say, on the creative side, so whether, you know, the painting or the sculpting or terrain building, they get people in and get them involved in the battle reports, which I think is fantastic and just really does kind of there's no click, if you like. It's kind of open, and you get different people in every issue, and it's just fantastic. It's fantastic. Right, without further ado, because I'll waffle all day long, because it's been that long since I've been in a studio in front of a camera, I'm kind of hogging it. Let's get stuck into the magazine. Before I do, I will say I'm not going to do shots of the pages and, you know, go too deep into what happens in the battle report and things like that. Otherwise, there's no point you picking this up. I will tell you how you can pick this up at the end of the video, so make sure you watch the video all the way through. So let's have a look in. I'll do some shots of what I'm looking at as I'm talking about. So straight off, we have the editorial and the contents page. The editorial's great. It gives you a bit of background of where the lads have been, what's been on the minds, what the process has been up to the stage of the magazine being released, and just kind of covering not just magazine stuff, but stuff that's happened in general in the community. So the editorial is always a nice little read. We have the contents page with some nice imagery telling us what we've got to look forward to. SBG Towers, again, which is a more in-depth background of what's been going on behind the scenes of the magazine. And in this one, we welcome Olivia, which is Damien and Emerald Burns' new arrival. So congratulations, guys. She is an absolute stunner, and I'm sure Charlotte is over the moon to be a big sister. So we hear a little bit about that. We've got a little bit about different sort of facts and figures in the magazine. Again, I'm not going to give anything away, but it's always a nice little read to get you in the vibe and get you in the mood for what's coming in the rest of the magazine. We have a hobby blog page, which everyone who's contributed to the magazine kind of just gives a little paragraph of what they've been up to in their hobby life whilst this magazine has been produced, and where they're up to and what they've got on the painting tables, etc. Sometimes it's not always SBG, which is great. It's nice to get an insight into other hobbyists' hobby life and what they've been up to. It would be a nightmare if you see my desk at the moment. Then on page 4, we've got the Doctor's Corner. The Doctor's Corner, the Doctor, for a little bit of background, for anyone who isn't aware or has been under a rock for the past few years, Dr. Grant is the name that Damien used to use on forums and things like the One Ring and the Last Alliance. He used to use the name Dr. Grant as his screen name. He's a massive Jurassic Park fan, and it's kind of stuck. And everyone knows Damien for this now. And yeah, it's a nice little sort of touch and a bit of a nod to the past. So that's the first time I met Damien. I knew him as Dr. Grant on the One Ring forum. So I'll say met him, I spoke to him. But yeah, this is always a nice article. In this article, he looks back at this kind of ties into the other YouTube channel that I have with Damien, Battle Streams in Middle Earth, but I'm not going to go on too much of a tangent with that. But he's basically touching back on, through lockdown, how his mindset and his thought towards his hobby and the reason he paints models and the order in which he paints models has changed, and how Battle Streams in Middle Earth has helped with that, and how a certain article from a white dwarf many moons ago when he was a wee lad, it's all kind of come together. And yeah, his whole outlook has changed. It's a very good read, very interesting, and I think it'll ring true with a lot of us really on how we feel about the hobby as we sort of progress through our hobby life and sort of get a little bit long in the tooth. So it's a really good read. We then have a great article, which I found really interesting, especially from a creator's point of view, as to tying two things that I really love together. So yes, I'm a hobbyist and a gamer, and I'm also a content creator, and I try my damnedest and I try to learn as much as I can about cameras and lighting and things like that. And this was a great read for me in that sense, because Mikkel Arch, who has been a stalwart in the SBG community from day one, pretty much, he's a great guy, but he works in TV and video in that industry. So he has a really, really different insight into it. And I think that, again, I don't want to give too much away, but when you read the article, I think never thought the two streams would cross, if you like, of his hobby and his professional life. And during lockdown, that offered up an opportunity for that to change. And by the sounds of the article, I think he got a lot from it, which is really good. And kind of there was a few things in the article that I thought, yeah, that I had that at this time, and I thought that at this time, and yeah, it's great. And the imagery that he created and the pictures, and if anyone was aware of the reason Mikolaj did this project a few months ago during lockdown was to enter it into a film competition. The result of his hard work was really, really good, and he got a little bit of help from his other half, which was great to see. It's great to see. A lot of people like me will know it's very difficult to get your other half involved in hobby. So yeah, that is another great article. The next article is from Emma O'Byrne. It's kind of a play on words on the Doctor's Corner. And knowing Emma personally through Damien, apart from being a great person and really easy to get onto, she puts up with a lot with Damien. She just put up with a lot. She's far more tolerant than my wife is with this hobby, and it's a great insight to. We never really think about that side of it, how our partners or the people that we live with or our families, you know, it could be parents, it could be siblings, how they kind of put up with us who are really passionate about something that's, in their eyes, is quite nerdy. How they see it and how it comes across to them and how they deal with that and the choices they make as to whether to embrace it or kind of just leave us to it, or sometimes, in some cases, you know, try and talk us out of it. So it's a great article, and it's a really nice. It's a nice touch. I think having Emma involved in the magazine that Damien puts so much love and affection into is really nice. And we get a lot of images, and she paints a very clear image of the home life in the O'Byrne household, and it is yeah, it warms the heart. There's a lot of talk about how Charlotte has now become as much a massive Middle Earth nerd as her dad, which is fantastic to see. And there's a certain shelf in her room which at one stage was 100% Disney princesses, and slowly but surely Middle Earth figurines are starting to overtake that shelf. It's great. Have a good read of that because it is fantastic, and there's some really great pictures of Charlotte's creations using her toys to create imagery from the movies that I think you'll recognise straight away. Then we have a guest article from Mr. Michael Haskell. Michael Haskell, if you're on the GBHL Facebook group or you join in on Battle Streams in Middle Earth or any of the live streams that we've had here on Top Table Gaming, which are coming back, by the way, in the past, you'll know Michael from the chat there. He's very involved in the community. He's one of the nicest blokes that I've ever met at tournaments, and I harp on a lot about the main reason I'm still in this hobby is because of the community and how welcoming it was to me when I first started. Michael is one of them people that I met at events and obviously spoke to online, and he's always just been so generous with his time, has a real interest in what you've got to say, has a real interest in the things that you're doing. He's just an all-round great guy, and he's very knowledgeable. He's been around for quite a while. You know, I consider myself one of the older ones in this community, but I think Michael's got a couple of years on me even. Sorry, Michael. But yeah, he's a great guy, and it is a great read. And he's talking about the focus of the article is his favourite character. I did one a couple of issues about, or was it the last issue, where I spoke about Aragorn being my favourite character and the reason why. And this is very much in the same vein, and he's talking about Frodo, which is a great character. And there is a very good kind of explanation of the transition of the profile of Frodo from what it used to be to what it is now. And it's just a great read. And again, the imagery is fantastic. And Michael does very well in painting a picture in your mind using words on a page of the points that he's trying to get across. And yeah, it's a really good read. I highly recommend that. Sticking with the theme of Frodo, we move into the Painting Masterclass. Painting Masterclass is articles which appear in every issue of SBG Magazine, and Mr. Kev Lawrence, who again is just another stand-up guy. I've not seen Kev for a while. It's been too long, Kev. If you are watching, we need to sort that out, and Dave. But yeah, he goes through how he'll paint Frodo, and he's a very, very talented painter. Very well known in the SBG community, and has his own style. You can look at a model that's been painted by Kev, and you know it's been painted by Kev. I've not seen anyone who paints in the same way where I could think, is that Kev or is that such and such? You look at a model, like I say, you know that Kev's painted it, and it's amazing. And he explains in depth. There's a lot of detail. There's a lot of images to take you through step by step, and it's great. And also on there, we've got some conversions done. There's one, I don't want to spoil it, but there's one with Frodo and Sam, and it's kind of just showing their friendship. And it was painted by Kev and sculpted by Dave. It's just an amazing piece, just an amazing piece. I love it. Always great articles. From there, we have the centre spread, which I'll show you on screen quickly. The road to Rivendell. Great image. Takes you straight back to the movies. You know exactly what part of the movies this is from. So the battle report in this issue is slightly different. There's multiple battle reports with kind of, and it's like a campaign, if you like. So you have the battle reports themselves. You have a bit of a setup, a bit of info about the battle reports and how they made it work. They had to do it via Zoom, which is not perfect, but it's the next best thing. And if you've got two people in the same mindset, and you know, not with a win at all costs mentality, you can have a lot of fun doing it via Zoom. Me and Damien have done it before, and it's been great. So you've got a little bit of bump about that. You've then got the different parts of the battle reports. You've got shortcuts make long delays, Buckleberry Ferry, Nazgul in Bree, which the image here, I mean, the image on this page is probably my favourite. I prefer this even to the centre spread. I really like that image of Bree. It's great with the foreground houses in there. It's fantastic. And then from Bree, you've obviously got the Weathertop scenario, and then flight to the Ford, and then we're cooking. Now you have in between each segment, so in between each of these sort of mini battle reports, you've got around the campfire, which they kind of, you know, they lick the wounds, find out what happened, what damage was caused, whether they've got full might, will, and fate, etc. So you really need to read that through and remember what's happened. But yeah, it's a great read. Written very, very well, enough detail and enough imagery there for you to keep up with what's going on in the battle report. It's fantastic. So hats off to the lads for that, because that I know it was no mean feat. So then you've got at the end the Hall of Fire, which tells you exactly the outcome, a lot of stats, a lot of what happened to who and where. And that's really, really great as well. It's that bit that kind of shows you how much goes into that, the tracking of everything, and keeping notes of what happened during these scenarios and things like that, which is hard to do when you're playing. Believe me, it's hard to do. And then from there, finally, on the last page, they've just squeezed it in. We've got Dave Fredericks, who is an amazing sculptor and does a lot of great conversions. I've took a lot of inspiration in the past from Dave's work. He's a really fantastic and talented guy. And he's made this diorama, which is You're Late, which is Gandalf on his cart arriving into the Shire, and then you've got Frodo stood on the embankment with his arms crossed with the famous lines, "You're late." And it shows how he's converted it, which model he used as a base model, and how he just sort of recreated it to be more exact from the movies, especially stuff with the cart as well, the things in the back of the cart. And it just looks fantastic. It's absolutely stunning. And I have an inkling that I am going to try and recreate this because I want that on my shelf. So hats off to you, Dave. It's a fantastic conversion and an amazing diorama. And then you get another close-up of the other diorama, which you see previously in the magazine on how he did it with the green stuff work and the putty work. And it's just, yeah, it's a bit of an eye-opener. And it's very inspiring, really inspiring. So, yeah. And that is the end. And on the back, obviously, we have, Mr. Mr. Generation Shift. Matt is always trying to flog his stuff. Generation Shift bases. Check them out. If I remember, I'll put a link below, Matt, for you. They are for any system, but they fit in with Middle Earth amazingly well, as I think they were designed. In fact, I know they were designed with Middle Earth in mind, and they're based on different areas of Middle Earth, but you can use them for any system. They're fantastic. But that is issue 11 of SBG. I've hoped you liked my ramblings of the magazine, and I hope I've not given too much away and spurred you on to pick up a copy. Now, if you do want to pick up this copy or any of the back copies, like I said, this is issue 11, so there is 10 more, which are all fantastic. They all have modelling guides in and painting guides and battle reports and articles about the hobby and things like that. All you need to do is email sbgmagazine@gmail.com and they will email you back and give you all the details that you need on how you can get your grubby little hands on a copy of SBG, but I highly, highly recommend it. I'll take this opportunity at the end of the video, like I said, I did say stick around. Myself and Damien, we celebrate another magazine, which is the Battle Games in Middle Earth magazines from way, 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 way back when the hobby started, which were released by D'Agostini, which a lot of us who have been in the hobby a long time probably have a lot of them lying around and still enjoy them to this day. They're still great. The hobby side of them is fantastic, and it's very interesting to see how far the game has come. Me and Damien have created a YouTube channel around these magazines called Battle Streams in Middle Earth. And I would absolutely love it if you're watching this. If you've never watched one of the streams or you've not been over to the YouTube channel and subscribed, please do consider it. Go over and check it out. It's Battle Streams in Middle Earth. Not only do we do the live streams once a fortnight where we tend to focus on one issue, and in the issue, when they were available, you would get a model or a sprue of models with each issue. We concentrate on that character or those characters in the whole stream. We're not too heavy on talking about gaming and hobby. You know, it's very relaxed. We have a drink. We normally have at least 40 to 50 people in, all just like having a laugh and hanging out and talking about things. But there's lots of good things in there. There's lots of painting in there. There's deep dives into the profiles, deep dives into the books and the movies, and it's just a lot of fun. So please do check that out. There is also a campaign on there that Damien has been doing with Mr. Thomas Macklin, which has battle reports, and it's a campaign that you can follow our way through of the Fantasy Fellowship, and the production value on that is up here. It's amazing. We have voice actors, anything you can think of is on there, so please do go and check it out. And there are sort of plans at the back of my mind also to create content for that channel, purposely for that channel, as well as Top Table, so keep an eye out for that coming. But that is it for this video. Thank you for joining in, and thank you to Damien and Tom and everybody else who contributed to issue 11. It's been eagerly anticipated. We weren't sure if they were going to get it out on time, but they did. They did it as per usual, down to the last minute. But thank you guys. It's an amazing magazine, and I highly recommend it to anyone. So that is it from me. I will see you guys this Friday on Battle Streams in Middle Earth, and then I will see you on Monday when Speak Friend, the live stream on this channel, returns with Carmen Steele's Right, who is an amazing dwarf player in Middle Earth strategy battle games, so don't miss that. Make sure you click the subscribe button. Check out all the other links below, and I'll see you then. Take care, people.